Well, of course I'm Gus. Who the hell else would I be? Okay, welcome back to another play day. Hot dang, I love play days. I really do. I know I said I was going to do a small company play day this week, but I'm waiting for one more figure that I really want to be in that episode, so it got pushed back. Thankfully, I was bit by the customizing bug last weekend, and I slapped some paint on some resin pieces I had. On top of that, as always, there's P.O. Box finds too, and a couple of those are very collaborative. So I'll have all the links to the creators, to the collaborators, to the places I got the 3D prints and the resins. So if you're interested in any of that, go down to the description. Let's start things off with something I bought, the Ramen Toy CAG or CAG set. Yes, I finally got around to putting this thing on. By now, we all know what the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Batman 89 Batmobile looks like. It's a little out of proportion in order to get it out to people at a reasonable price, but the canopy was always the sticking point. It was made taller and bigger in order to fit the 7-inch scale of DC Multiverse. But also on those first releases, the canopy wasn't fully painted. It's a clear piece of plastic with paint on top of it, but it just wasn't done right. It wasn't heavy enough something. It came out gray instead of black to match the rest of the car. Now, there was a second release that fixed that problem, but I didn't want to go buying a whole new Batmobile. I ain't got room for that kind of thing. So thankfully, Ramen Toy came along and offered up a replacement canopy piece along with a couple of extras. Doesn't that look so much more like the original shape from the movie? Here's the McFarlane canopy. It's taller, got more window, kind of leveled off on top. This one follows the shape of the car while still being fully functional. Look at this button that I discovered. I was the first one to discover that button. For those of you who don't know, it was never explained how to open it, and everybody was like, oh no, how do we open canopies? And I was like, hey, everybody, look, button. But you can still open it up, put a figure in. In order to change that out, there are screws on the bottom that you have to remove. This bottom piece comes out, and then there is 3 more screws holding the cockpit in. The steering column, the dashboard, the seats, and everything right there pop out, and then you can just pull the canopy out through the bottom, replace it with this one, reverse the process, put all the screws back in. Done. There's also these nifty gun attachments that just slip over the sculpt of the car. No glue, no screws, no dremeling. It doesn't affect the car whatsoever. You just get this beautifully sculpted gun, or well, you get a set of them, line it up, push it down, fairly secure. There's also the gas caps that weren't on the original car. For those, they do come with a sticky back. You peel it off, stick it on where you want it, and so far it's stayed on there. It's a nice upgrade for the Batmobile to make it more like what we saw in the movie. And now it's a pretty sweet display alongside the Mezco 1/12 Collective 89 Batman. Speaking of sprucing things up, here is the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Obi-Wan Kenobi Series Darth Vader body with the head from the Bandai SH Figuarts Obi-Wan Kenobi Series Darth Vader. Now, I did not plan this. I didn't buy the SH Figuarts with the intention of, hey, I'm gonna put that on a Black Series figure. No, I showed this custom drape cape I got on a previous play day for the SH Figuarts Vader, and I figured since, hey, it's got holes, it's torn up, I'm going to display it with this head. Because, I mean, look at that. Meanwhile, the Black Series figure has an intact cape that drapes pretty nicely, and I thought, that head is not bad at all, but why put this beautiful head sculpt in a bin, in a bag, in a tub somewhere? I mean, they're both good, don't get me wrong, but you could see a definite difference between the two. So to test it out, I stuffed it full of blue tack, put it up on top of this body, and I think it sits a little bit high, but I also like the proportions of it. How that almost makes it look slightly taller, but more agile? I don't know. This is definitely not 100% locked in yet. I'm still playing around with it. It's that initial, oh, that looks great, but after I sit on it a couple days, we'll see what happens. If this head goes back on there, or if this one stays on, or I just finally admit that I'm pretty happy with the 65 Darth Vaders I already have in my display. So, in that aspect, I can do whatever I want to this, right? Swap it in, tear it up, I don't know, I sure like that figure arts head. Keeping with import items on Hasbro figures, here is the Star Wars Black Series Ahsoka with the Metacom Mafex cloak. I'm only showing this because I didn't do it during the review, and afterwards, well actually last night, I got curious as to what it would look like. But I should have known it would look nice because that cloak kicks ass. The stitching, the material, the wires, you can make it lay natural no matter what pose you put the figure in. A lot of us in the comment section of that review agreed that the Mafex seems like more of a natural progression of the animated version of Ahsoka. Not so much running into the live action, maybe an in-between or an alternate universe or something. Still a very, very nice Ahsoka, but I think I'm putting her without the cloak into the display off to the side, and then the other Hasbro Ahsoka that I have is in the main display because of the likeness. She's standing with Hera and Sabine and the rest of that crew. Since I have an extra Ahsoka, maybe she'll keep the cloak. And that way I can have it on display, or it doesn't get lost into the storage units or something. It stays prominent. Because again, look at that. Here is Morph from X-Men 97, which is essentially just the Hasbro Marvel Legends X-Men animated series Morph with the cell shading removed, some Cyclops hands, and a custom head I got on eBay from Collectible Carnage. I was originally going to take the Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse Morph head and put it on here, call it a day, but then I started seeing this sculpt float around eBay and Etsy and everywhere else, and I thought, that seemed more fun because I could put my own paint job on it, which is essentially just the gray resin with a white dry brush, just heavy down, 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 and then the eyes punched in. I should have probably filled in these two pinholes, and I may still go back and do it because it's not too late. Like I said, it's just white paint on top of it. And maybe this printing swirly twirl up here, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this is just gonna be a placeholder. You gotta think Hasbro's gonna use this recipe, right? I think it's already been announced that they're working on the next wave of X-Men 97. It may be a while before we see it, but, I mean, again, the body's just reuse. Paint the hands yellow, new head, retro card, good to go. So I'll just rock this on the shelf until then. And if Hasbro does do this and I like it better, I'll just put the Casting Cave Morph head back on this and I'll have two versions. It's probably gonna be the same situation for this version of Morgan Elsbeth. Hasbro has the sculpt. They have the grippy hands. Why not re-release her with that face paint from the end of the Ahsoka series and the Blade of Talzin? Which is where this custom started after I saw this sword on Etsy from Bounty Supply Company. The green magic is a separate piece that just slips over the blade, so all I had to do was paint the silver, the gold, the ivory, and done. But at that point she had the face paint, so I figured I'd give that a shot, and it's okay. For that I just took some soot from the Tamiya, have we already went over this? The Tamiya Weathering Master Set B. And I applied it with this silicone brush that I think is more for pushing glue around or something, but it seemed to work out okay. I got some fine lines, and I got some messy lines too. This is super, super soft, so it's hard to get down in the nooks and crannies, which worked out in a way because it's makeup-like. It still allows for some skin tone to show through, but I definitely didn't get a lot of the shapes that I really, really wanted, especially to the sides of the eyes. Those should be more pointy, more domino mask. I think blacking out the eyes changed it the most here and made it look like how she looks in the show. So again, probably a placeholder until Hasbro releases their version, but I'm pretty happy. And I had fun doing it. That's the name of the game, right? Just have some fun, do some playing, and if it goes in a bin later, so be it. Or if I like mine better, I don't have to spend that. Well, I already spent the money for the figure and then the sword, so it was fun though. But since I was ordering from Bounty Supply Company on Etsy anyway, I also grabbed their 88 kit. I just like Star Wars droids, so why wouldn't I grab this? This one's a little more involved with the paint job. I wasn't quite sure where to put the silvers down here, so I kind of went with the original toy or some of the Hasbro 3 3/4 inch figures. But up here I went with stills from Book of Boba Fett. And I'm pretty dang happy with the red paint work I did here. The straight lines, the shapes. It's not exact, but it's not bad for freehand, especially considering considering I was painting it with shaky hands and everything. There's also just a bit of silver up in there, just to set that off. The eyes are yellow with some orange in the middle to change it up, make them kind of glowy, but not really. And then I could probably dirty it up some more, but I kind of liked where it came out. I did install the lower arms from the elbow down backwards. You can see the sprue markings right there, which I could have sanded off, but again, I'm pretty damn lazy when it comes to that. I get to a certain point when I get to paint now, my brain kind of skips over some steps. I gotta remember, come in, smooth some things, snip them. And that elbow pin was so tight to put in that I didn't want to take it back off afterwards. Speaking of that, there is some articulation. You can bend at the elbow, and this hinges out at the shoulder. That whole shoulder assembly turns if you want to go forward. The head is on a ball joint that you can turn and look down and up. The waist swivels, and then the leg hinges at the hip, forward and back. I'm not really pushing it because I added some clear nail polish to tighten those up. And with some of the thinness in places, I don't want to get rowdy with it. But if I ever get a gonk droid in the upside down torture position with a handle, I could probably get them gripping that. But I'll probably put this over. Well, I don't know. I'll have to make that decision when I get to it, right? It could be with Jabba, or it could be with Book of Boba Fett. Either way, it's another droid for my Star Wars shelf, and now I want to go back and get some of the other kids. I think my next one's going to be EV-99. That coppery color and same kind of shapes and everything. Yeah. Cruising around Etsy more, I also got the Marvel Legends Kazar wrist cuffs and necklace from Anthanatos Unlimited. You know the deal here. Kazar, naked body, crotch cover, boots. Long hair. That's pretty much the defining factor. So I thought, hey, why not put more stuff on it? I have the pelt sculpt that matches up nicely with the crotch cover and the... And instead of matching colors or having those stand out, I painted the cuffs, and then I came along and painted this and this the same colors. Just kind of base coated, dry brushed on top, and there you go, they match. I also got to clean up some of the lines. I left this the same color across the top, but I mean, it still looks okay. Then I got to do some buckle and strap painting on the inside of those. With the necklace, I wasn't sure where to go at first. I knew the teeth or the claws or whatever they are would be bone colored, but in between I thought, should I make those beads or should I make them this or that? I ended up going with gold so it would match the knife. Plus it kind of plays into that Kevin Plunder is a wealthy man from the civilized world who prefers to be out in the wilderness, in the wilds of the savage land. All in all, it just adds a little bit extra to the figure without going over the top. It's still a naked dude with some fur, but he's got a little more fur, and it makes him a bit more unique on my shelf. And that's one of my favorite things, where I can look up and go, yeah, okay, I did that, I added that. Or forgetting completely about it some years on, looking and going, wait, that didn't come with the figure? Because there's more. And Thanatos sent a whole box of stuff for like cable, and I got some other heads for some other recent Marvel Legends figures to change them up. Feral, Deathbird, cough, cough. Here is a bony Robo from Commodon on Instagram. This one's funny. I opened the box, saw this. I was like, that looks amazing. There's no note. So I had to go by the address. I searched the name and found him on Instagram. He says that his friend Blood and Ink Custom Creations on Instagram actually painted it. Then he says, I never see you from the waist down, so I went with blue jeans, which I do wear in the wintertime. But any other time of the year, no, my ankles must be free. So this is Winter Robo with the jeans and the heavy boots, which I do like, and the shirt with some Star Wars flavor to it. And then look at this head. So of course it starts raining right now. Ain't gonna damper my playday. Try as you might. I get a Disney feel from the eye holes in the skull, but then there's the boniness and then the beard. I mean, I guess that's become one of my defining traits. That and the hat. If I shaved and got a ball cap or a cowboy hat, nobody would ever recognize me. Ever again. Including my kids, I think. I'm really liking this base body too. It's posable and goes down and around and that, and Just a good-looking Robo. In fact, that may be better looking than Robo in person. This is Robo in 100 years. This is Robo 3024. Or put a fire accessory up on top. Oh, Robo of Vengeance with my fiery lawnmower. Oh, man. I'm gonna have to find a 0 turn in 1/12 scale. Next up, these are Bloop Drops. These were sent in by Simply Joe Unlimited on Instagram, aka Kill It. Inspired partially by blind box minifigures and 80s gross out toys, which I kind of missed, but I know of. So I don't have a lot of history with this kind of thing, but I like it, especially now that I get a closer look at a couple of things inspired by that era. First up, this one's the mean one. You got the pointy teeth, you have those angry eyes, you have the color scheme, the red. I love the paint jobs on these, how it fades from darker to lighter colors. The glossiness to the eyes, plus the saliva. The drool, oh, that is neat. Then the other one's a whole different color scheme, a whole different feel. This is the nice guy down around the corner that you get lost in this neighborhood. He's just like, yeah, sure, you go down and then you hang a left and you get on the highway. Again, the glossiness is what puts it over the top. It adds a slight realism to the eye, and then down here, and then the smoke coming up from the pipe. But then the fades of the greens and blues is also interesting too. It gives it a pleasant feel. While this one has an anger to it, same general feel, right? But again, different personalities. I ain't giving you directions. Don't pay any attention to him. You want some cake? They're not articulated. They're not my usual fare when it comes to toys, but they're gonna find their way onto the shelf somewhere. In fact, this is going to find its way onto a villain shelf, and this one will be... Speaking of Robos, here's the Robonator from King Arthur Customs 95. Now, this is not the first custom that King Arthur has sent me. There was Robo in X-Wing gear with the sweet, sweet blue helmet, and then there was Rampaging Robo, who has read too many YouTube comments and just... So the Robonator will be a nice addition to that display when I eventually get all these customs all in one place. There's some RoboCop parts with blue painted, including the gun, and then Terminator arms. You get up to the head, and I love that it looks like it's smiling. Brain's been transplanted into a robot, still gonna find a way to have a good time. Still gonna find a way to play. Plus the beard sticking out, and I, of course, had to add the hat. It keeps the rain and the sun off the chrome dome. I get what you were going for there. But I love the wear and tear, the scuffing, the age. Wait a second. Is that another shot at... No. I'm speaking out of pure love because there's something so special about somebody taking the time and effort to make something for me, based on me. It's still crazy to think about, and every time I open a box and there's something like this, it's just, it warms my old aging heart. Because there is also this Mezco 1/12 collective styled Catman, and oh man, this was sent by WA Creations, and he enlisted some people to help out with this. The head sculpt and belt was sculpted by WA Creations, 3D printed by Vault Custom Figs, and then painted by WA Creations. Soft goods designed and made by Rebel 10 Customs. Don't I always find some way to put Rebel 10 Customs into a Playday? Boots and gloves designed and made by 6" Plus and then painted by WA Creations. Cat claws, which we'll get to. I just opened those up just now and holy moly. Original Predator Vega claws made by Liat 9025 on eBay, then modified and painted by WA Creations. Body and cowl is a Mezco 1/12 collective Sovereign Knight. Knives and sheaths are Mezco 1/12 Bishop. And then hands and harness are Mezco 1/12 Commander Rogers. I definitely did not see this coming. The skies are opening up even more to come and look at this damn work of art. Now, Catman is one of my favorite DC characters, mostly because of Villains United and, of course, Secret Six. I've made some customs, but I've always kind of wish-listed a Mezco 1/12 collective version, and this is it. Even the belt is unmistakably Catman. It's his. And then there are the sheaths on the back. I don't have Bishop, so I don't know what these look like, but blades worthy of Catman. Have the harness piece coming up over the shoulders around the front. Wire in the cape, of course, so it can swing out when Catman's up on rooftops, catching Batman eating a burrito or something. That head sculpt, it even has the seam line running up and over the top. The logo seems to be vinyl glued on the front, but it works so well. And it still gets all the Mezco mobility. Does the little flare up on the shoulders coming down with the cape on the back, the colors. Just, I don't think I could ask for a better official Catman. This is it. This is the pinnacle. Like mentioned, there's also some alternate hands. There's the flat palm, there's the relaxed hand, and then there's the grip hands, which is what I'm looking for. Then there's these claws that look very steampunkish. That's what I'm talking about. Slash action. Just fits the whole theme, the whole costume. It just, there's Catman. I don't ever need another Catman again. Well, okay. I'm not going to say that. But when it comes to Mezco 112 Collective, this is it. This is, I'm done. So at the end of a miserable rainy day, I still got to play. And that means it was a good day. The elements are not going to stop me from playing. The weather, the rain, the heat, whatever you throw at me, I'm going to play. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the plastic is delightful. And since we've no place to go, let us play, let us play, let us play. Playing always puts me in a good mood. Like I said, links in the description to the creators, to Etsy, to eBay, if you want to get some resin kits, some 3D prints, something like that. Go show some love, go throw some money, go look. Even if that's all you, just give them a gander. And, hey, that's a different form of playing. You've seen it. We all know. There's a lot of good people out there. A lot of creative people out there just doing it. Just working that paint, working that plastic, working that 3D sculpting. And that's where it's at. That's where we need to stay. That's in that pocket. And we'll be all right. Lots of love. Yeah, and that may sound sappy, but I ain't ashamed. Lots of love to everybody out there.